So hello everyone and welcome you on to today's share shop. While our today's topic is data and risk career insights. And before we get started, I'd like to briefly introduce about a little bit about myself for those of you who don't know me. So my name is Joe Huang and I'm an HR professional and also a career consultant. I'm also part of the organizing team of the mentorship program this year. I'm very thrilled to be here with you guys as your host and of the share shop today. All right, and now I'm very happy and excited to introduce our guest speakers to you all. They're also mentors of this program, professional mentorship program this year, season 3. So we got mentor Scandal. He's currently working as a data engineer as OMERS. And we got mentor Vile. She's currently working as a director at Canada Life. They are all experts in their fields with years of experiences and have profound insights of the industry in which they are currently working. So thank you, V and Kang, for taking your time to be with us at the Share Shop today.
So I will start with the career overview in data industry, and then we will talk about more in her risk industry. So I think everyone will notice like data is very promising career these days. And I saw in a lot of forums, people mention a lot about data analysts, but I want to come to this session and want to explain more about that because in data industry, we not only data analysts for entry level. If you don't have any technical background, you can address other role as well. So let's start and see what actually in that. I will break this session in 3 parts. We have core roles such as data analyst, data scientist, data engineer. The other part will be supporting role, and the last part will be the governance role. So in the core roles, data analyst, data scientist, and data engineer, I think everyone can have a lot of resources in internet and V channel to mention about what actually they do in daily life. So I will break down that role further, like the opportunities in each of that. I will start with data analyst first. Usually we will enter to this field from junior data analyst or data analyst. They basically work with data, they analyze that, they visualize the data, and they also create some reporting based on that data. But in the field, if you have more like technical skill, like SQL database, you can enter to the second role, which is called business intelligence analyst or business intelligence specialist. So with this role, people usually work more in something called data warehouse. You can imagine like in a corporation, all the data they will put in one place. That's called data warehouse. And the BI analysts, they will come and they use the SQL skill to have a very complex query to extract the insight from that. And they also use the skill from data analysts to create dashboard, build report, or actually do some ad hoc research for the user. The third role I want to talk about within the data analyst stream is called business intelligence enablement. So this is more for the candidate that they don't have very strong data analyst skill, but they want to work in the data field. And before they work like a facilitator in event, or they actually like have instruction or educator background, they can come here and they work in this role. Basically, you will educate and enable corporate user to understand more about business intelligence tool like Power BI, Tableau, Asterisk, a lot of tools these days. And user, before they just work mainly with Excel or maybe they just read a report. So this person will come create a program to let people understand the dashboard, the diagram, everything. So that also an alternative for people. And lastly, when you have some background, except from data such as marketing, healthcare, financial, and you want to work in data industry, you can apply for something called specialist role. And they also have a good pay because they require in deep in the business sector such as financial analyst, healthcare analyst, marketing analyst. I think we can also talk about the role called risk analyst. And that is something in data analyst stream, but you need to have a background in other industry as well. So to finish the data analyst, I will move to data scientist. I think data scientist these days is a hot topic. I see a lot of people come to this field because, to be honest, you don't need to have very strong technical skill to start the data scientist, because Python and its library these days have people to do a lot of work easily. So mainly for data scientist, you do a lot of research. You need to have statistic background, and you will create the like something machine learning model to actually create some predictive result. Let's say want to know about the sale in next month, and that is something data scientists do. But in data scientists, we not only have that role. If you come from a computer science background and you know how to code, so you have a strong programming skill to know how to use Python to make application, so you can apply for the second path, naming machine learning scientist or machine learning researcher. So with this role, you not only create model, you actually use your programming language, implement that model, which is bring that model, put into application, a platform that people can actually come there, extract the data, and also you can visualize that in a way that people can interact easily. That's something with the like strong technical background you can do. Sometimes people come from Vietnam and they have a very strong math background. In this way, data scientist stream, they also have a separate role for that called statistician. So with that stream, you can use the data collection to actually and use computer to process data, and mainly for the statistical modeling and visual analysis. So that's require people with very strong math and statistic background for that role. But that's something you can also use and leverage your skill sets. And when we talk about data analyst and data scientist, we have another position stay in the middle that have them to automate the data. So usually you work with some like Excel file, CSV file, but this role called data engineer, they require a very strong technical background. So I see a lot of students come from computer science school. They actually start to apply to this type of role because in the data engineer, they actually have 4 different paths that people can apply. The first one, very like simple one, they call ETL engineers, or maybe ETL stand for extract, transfer, and load. So what they do, they usually try to automate the data. They use something called data pipeline. They use system to bring the data from source data, like database file, and they put that data to the destination place. For data analysts and data science, they can use that to create model, create dashboard, everything. So some sample title for this role, like ETL developer, data integration engineer, SQL developer, or big data engineer. You will see big data engineer appear in multiple pathways because these days they can do a lot of things using big data. And in the second thing, I will talk about data savvy software engineer. Usually a lot of software engineer, they want to ship and work to work in the data industry. So this role come to place and very handy. They usually work on something called data intensive application or data platform, and they require a lot of like software development skill, but they need to work very closely with data and everything. So some sample title for this role like big data developer, data engineer developer, data platform engineer. So actually my role, I can define myself like data engineer developer. So I also build a data application that generate insight for user. The third part I want to mention here, like data warehouse or business intelligence data warehouse. So typically with this role, people don't have very strong software engineering skill, but instead they need to have very strong data modeling skill. So they will try to bring the data from many sources, because I talked about data warehouse already. That's the place where corporation will put on the data. So they need to find a way to actually bring all data and store that, and in a way that people can actually consume and use that. So some sample role for this one, like data warehouse engineer and data architect. Data architect is a very senior role. Usually you need to have like 7 to 10 years of experiences to actually become a data architect. And lastly, we talk about data scientists. So here, this role mainly for support that those data scientists, that's called machine learning data engineers. So usually they will have implement the model, and they also create a lot of things such as DevOps stuff. If people in computer science, they will know that. They do the DevOps, they do the application, platform, etc., to actually automate the data for data scientists so they can consume and build their model. So you can see some sample role in the job market like big data engineer, artificial intelligence or machine learning engineer, and model automation engineer. So that is the four pathway that you can take in the data engineer if you're interested in this role. So I finished the core role. So I think a lot of people will have the questions, right? If I don't have technical background, what else I can apply for this data industry? So I will come to something called supporting roles. And I want to emphasize this role called business analyst or data business analyst. So typically, you don't need to have a strong background like coding, SQL, etc. But you come from business side, such as healthcare, math, finance, whatever. But you can, like, you have a tech savvy, you can understand the tech term easily, and that's the way you become a bridge between business user. You come there, ask them about their need, their problem, and you transfer that to technical team in a way that both sides can understand each other. So you can see some sample role like business analyst or business system analyst. That is something you can take a look into that if you don't have very strong tech background. Another supporting role here, like in Vietnam, I see a lot of people work with physics server or that database. So that is something in Canada, we still have that and we still maintain that. So we need this role called database admin. That's the second role. So people can come there, make sure the server, the database work perfectly. They maintain that, and sometimes they update the version, something like that for the database. That also a supporting role for the core one. And lastly, I see some people, they think like, if I study MBA and I want to work in, let's say, in data industry, how can I apply for? So you can see this path apply for you. So that is called business architect. And another very similar one is enterprise architect one. So business architect meant for business issue in the corporation. So they will handle the business problem, business demands, and they will try to see how they can match the application to address those issues in the organization. And with the MBA background, you can come there and work in that field. Even you just graduate. I see one of my coworkers. She's still studying MBA. She just graduated from school, but she can apply for this one. If you have very strong technical background and you want to have like big overview of all the application in the organization, so enterprise architect is the role for you. So you can graduate, you want to know like bird eye view instead of just focus on develop some sort of like application, you can apply for enterprise architect. And that is the finish for the supporting role. And I would want to introduce the last one called governance roles, because I see lots of Vietnamese students or maybe people, they work in compliance, they work in law, and they say, hey, if I want to go to data industry, how can I find a role? So here you are. The first job I want to talk about is called data governance specialist. So they work in data management field. You can imagine like you have a lot of data all over the plate in the organization, from human resource, from finance, everything. And they need to have a person to actually document those to have something called data catalog. And when they come and they can see, okay, this data from finance, this field have the definition like this one, and here where is storage. So that is the use case, the purpose of this role. The second one, I will talk about the risk side. So we have a role called information risk and compliance specialist. So for this one, you need to check the compliance, the law from government governance, and also you want to see like how much sensitive of the data. Usually you can see, okay, if the data is confidential, how you can store that, how you can manage and control that, whether it's matched with the Canadian or Europe regulation or not. So that's something you can come in place and work in this field. Except from like law and other thing, I see a lot of people that they don't have tech background and they want to come and work in technical stuff. They can apply something called product manager. I see a lot of people come to this field these days because the corporation, they shift their view from just project to product, because they want someone that's manage the product for their life cycle, like the whole life of the application. So they have something called data or maybe product manager who actually have a vision of the features, who is the user, how can you put that in place, what the plan for that, how you can roll out the solution, etc. So if you don't have any tech background, you can consider to look into this role as well. And lastly, the last role in this governance role called data strategy analyst. So if you have a good strategy one, this role will come for you when you want to see. We have a lot of solution from data scientists, data analysts, data engineer, and who should we prioritize that? Who should we put that to develop first? And which department are we working with, and how we can prioritize those? So this is the functionality of this role. So here is the 4 stream that you can apply in governance roles. Now I will pass to V so she can talk more about the risk industry.
similar to the data industry. When you think about it, risk management, risk professionals, they can work in a lot of different companies. So essentially, just like the data roles that Ken described earlier, anything that have data word in it is like, you can say that is a data role. For risk, anything that has the word risk or compliance or control in it, essentially it is for risk management professionals. So like risk analyst, risk manager, enterprise risk analyst, business risk manager, chief risk officer. So these kind of roles. And so today, like for you to understand more about what the job of the risk management professional, I want to talk more about like what they do. Essentially, any risk management professional can specialize in just like one type of process or one type of risk, or they can cover multiple area of risk management. And the more you, in a way, like you going up, like essentially, if you are a chief risk officer, you need to be able to do everything or to understand everything, all of the risk knowledge of the company, and your responsibility will be larger. But when you are just like at the beginning, entry level, or you just want to specialize in one type of risk function, then you have that choice too. And essentially, it would go through the governance aspect. It's the same thing as what Ken was saying. Essentially, for governance, you're talking about how to establish different policy or standards or related to the process or the framework. And in this case, it's a risk management framework rather than like data management. So that is for governance. And then the other processes around risk framework with the responsibilities would go through. First is identification of risk. In order to know your risk, you need to be able to identify risk. And it can be both current or emerging risk that are up and coming. And that is, I would say, the companies see more value in that. Because sometimes like, yeah, everyone can see the current risk. But for the up and coming that can have a disruption or can have an impact to the company, that's the emerging risk. And then once you identify the risk, then you need to be able to measure the risk. So this is about quantifying the risk, assessing the risk, and this is where more technical role involved in this. And then this can be like for a particular risk type. More technical is like market risk, credit risk, insurance risk, or liquidity risk. And or it can be more like operational risk side, like fraud risk, cyber security, technology risk, data risk, legal risk, or like strategic risk. So different people have different background and will be able to quantify and assess these risks. And then once you are able to identify, measure the risk, then you want to manage the risk. Essentially, you can manage the risk through different ways. Like you can actually accept the risk, or you can actually reinsure the risk, or you want to like reduce the risk impact or the frequency, the potential frequency that it can happen. So through a way to like development of different key risk indicators or develop mitigation actions. And then after that, then you want to monitor the risk and then reporting the risk. So you want to evaluate that like the effectiveness of the existing controls, any gaps, and then it just go back to the whole circle to see if there are any gaps involved, then how you can actually manage those and so on. If you are within like working for more financial institution or regulated industry like insurance, banking, and so on, there's a very popular model for risk management is the 3 line of defense model. And for me, the risk management professional is working more for the second line. So the first line are talking about the people who own the risk. They are the front line. Let's say they sell a product. Essentially, when you sell a product, the company assuming the risk associated of that selling. It can be that the risk of like when you for insurance products, you underwrite that. So how much when you sell that insurance product, then you take on the risk of the insurance for that. So they let the owner of the risk is the first line. And then when you get to the second line, so this is where I'm saying like more like for the risk management, for me, professional work in is like you providing the oversight for the first line. So you want to challenge them to say, hey, whatever the process that they have, are they effective? Are we able to manage all of the risk with that the company currently have? Or the risk or the second line would also look out for any upcoming risk and then informing the first line, have you thought about these kind of risks? Have you thought about these kind of mitigation action? They are advisory on the risk for the first line. And then the third line is the internal audit. So that's another just like to do the challenge or independent review and challenge for the company before the external auditors coming in. And then again, you can deal with a particular risk type, as I say, like can be financial or non-financial, or if in certain areas you would have a knowledge of own risk, but maybe you're not. If you think about a generalist and specialist, so you can choose to become a generalist that know a lot of different type of risks, understand a lot of different responsibilities, or you can be a specialist going into just one particular process, one particular risk. So overall, I would say the employers for risk management professionals, like mostly would be financial institutions, like banks, the insurance company, hedge fund, investment firms. So anything to deal with regulated industry or a lot of financial numbers. And then you also have like consulting company or accounting firms who provide like risk advisory to other companies. And then you have these that would have technology company, because like the fraud risk or the cyber security, those are big risks and can impact a lot to the companies and to the consumer and everything. So there can be like risk management role there, same as fintech or insurtech. And then you have the government roles, or like in healthcare or energy, or like larger corporations that is more complicated, where risk management can help adding value to the company by like helping the company to understand like how much is what are the return, what are the risks, both upside and downside, and how to optimize the value that the company creates in that sense.
Usually people will go some channels such as like career, social media, like Indeed, LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter. That's a very common way people come and apply for a job. But another source that maybe you don't thought is useful, but we can come to like forum or group like Holding Week or maybe Big Text. That is some other source that you can come and actually looking for a job over there, because I see a lot of people post the job in their company, and they can become a great source as a referral for that type of that type of thing, because you would know that if you can refer a person and that person succeed in their probation, you can get money from that, like 1,000 for TD. I heard from one of my friends. So don't feel afraid that ask them for referral if you confident, or maybe you know that person before. A third way you can find the role is internal job posting. I really like this channel because that's where I got my full-time role. When I become a co-op and I look around, the good thing from internal job posting is that you know who is the hiring manager. So I actually shoot an email to the hiring manager and say, hey, I interested in this role. I know this data engineer requires 5 years of experiences, but I have this, and also have some project to show him. And he say, okay, let's go to the interview. So this is a very efficient channel that you can leverage if you become a co-op in a company. The fourth way you can find job is via recruiter, more specifically headhunters. So they have a lot of job, and I usually follow a bunch of like technical recruiters. So they will post a job continuously in their LinkedIn profile, and if you are open for hiring, you can reach out to them and say, I see you like you post this job, can I apply for that, or etc. Because we are a recruiter, they have a benefit that you can get a job, right? So they will try their best to actually help you to get a role. The another channel you can consider is consultant company. So if you have the experiences in Vietnam already or in here like 4-5 years, and you want to leverage that, you can come to consultant company. So basically they would try to find you a project that you can work for, and for IBM or Deloitte, they actually pay you even you don't have any project to work with, so you can spend that time to study some certification, improve your skill, etc. So that's also a way that you can find a job in this market. And lastly, and the most efficient method is referral. So if you know someone else, and even with your current company or co-op, try to make and build a rapport with your co-worker. So in the future, they become a great source of referral for you when you try to apply for a job. Like let's say this day they have a mass layoff. So in my previous company, Osfors, they do the same thing. And one of my coworker come and say, hey, I see in almost they start the data scientist job posting. Can you refer me? So I say yes, and I take his resume and send to the hiring manager, because I know him and I can tell my friends about some background about that team before he have any kind of like interview. That's about my opinions. I would pass to V so she can share her thought about this one.
My thought is totally agree with Ken. I would just add that you can also find some posting from professional organizations if you are a member of one, like especially in the risk management or from my experience, like a lot of us have professional certification. It can be with the CFA Institute, or maybe it would be the FRM or the Global Risk Institutes. So if you are a member of one, definitely look out for the job posting from there.
So for data, because we have limited time, so I just focus on the core role and some very core skill set that you like most of the role in the core, like data engineer, data scientist, and data analyst you need to have. So first, I will start with SQL. That's a must. Like even data analyst, you need to know a bit of SQL to actually query some data from database. Like data scientist, you need to work a lot with SQL, and data engineer, that's very essential skill you need to have. Second one, programming language. So that's optional for data analysts. Like you don't necessarily know any programming language like Python, but it's an asset for you if you can analyze the data via the Python. For data scientists and data engineer, that's an essential. Like you need to know at least one programming language. The third one, data analytics skill. That's a must in data industry, right? So you need to know how to see the data, have inside the data, like what the trend of the data, if have any issue with the data, like data not, they have some missing data, something like that. You need to know a way to actually analyze and address that issue. The fourth one is visualization skill. So you can think about like Excel, Power BI, Tableau, you visualize that data. That's an essential skill for data analysts and data scientists. at the end of the day, when you finish the analytic, you need to show that to your end user. So that's the must skill. For the engineer, you might need to know a bit so you can work well with data scientists and data analysts. You can understand what their requirements, what they need. And lastly, the soft skill, communication skill, that's very essential, especially presentation skill. Even you think data engineer, they don't usually communicate with a lot of people a lot, but you still need to talk to data analysts, data scientists, business analysts, and a lot of departments to actually create some kind of like solution. And for presentation, everyone, they need to present their result to the end user, even the data engineer. They need to show their diagram to other people to maybe they get approval, or maybe they discuss with other teammates. So that's the skill we need for data industry. I think we can talk more about risk management.
So I would say for risk management professional, I would emphasize the soft skills, and that doesn't just include like communication skill that Ken talk about, but it's like interpersonal, leaderships, critical thinking, analytical problem solving, especially if you are in the second line. Again, you're providing oversight for the first line. So you don't work alone. You work with other people, how to educate them about the risk concept, for them to think about different risk topics, influence to change how they are doing things. So soft skill is big. And then when we're talking about the technical skill, again, it depends on whether you're a generalist or a specialist in this, and what type of risk that you are dealing with. And so like the people I see can come from different background and then have a variety of experience. So because like, for example, if you actually data risk analyst, then of course, like you need to have more technical skill in terms of whatever Ken just described. But then if you do legal risk, people can be like come from like lawyer. They used to be a lawyers, or they work in legal firms before. Or if you're dealing with more like financials, then maybe you are accountants, or you coming from a financial background. So like for insurance company, for myself, like a lot of us are actuaries, because like we know about the insurance risk the best in the company. So it makes sense for us to use our technical knowledge in the risk management area to deal with insurance risk, or just on type of risk like assets risk, including market, credit, liquidity. And then there's like people with like CFA degrees, or people have certificate in risk and information system. So again, it really depends on like on what type of risk you work with, whether you are a generalist or a specialist, and that is where your technical knowledge coming from. Like it can be from just doing like very technical work like modeling of the risk or how to assess the risk, or you're doing more supporting role is like compliance or governance, or like business continuity management and so on.
For a tip that you need to have. So the first tip, if you have a job or you have a co-op, first you need to take responsibilities to lead a project, because that will add more value to your resume instead of waiting for a task or like just work fixing in your resume. So that's not make any value for you. Secondly, you need to active in volunteer work to expand a relationship. So this is a good way for you to get referrals. I know a lot of people get a job after they have volunteer in a lot of volunteer team, like within the organization. You can do that. Third one, if you're in the co-op, that's for internship one, try to ask for a part-time role, because sky is a limit. You should email to your hiring manager and say, hey, I come back to school, can I get a part-time role? Because I have a thought before, if you come back to school, you just work like server, etc. But here you can have some technical skill you put in your resume in the future when you get a job. So that's something you should give a try. And lastly, mentorship, that's very important. If you know who will be the good mentor, you can come and reach out to them. Otherwise, you can join in mentorship program, internal or external, like Honging. So that's something you can try to land your first job in Canada. I will pass to V to have a thought about her strategies.
I would say there are two videos that I recommend that you would to watch, especially for those that don't have the experiences already. So first is like how to strategically volunteer for your professional development. So this is again like touch base on what Kang say is like if you don't have any experience or like pay job before, how can you create relevant experience? And then the second one is like a video I did with another person about like 8 tips on how to be successful at your new job, which can help you from like co-op internship going into the full time. So it's like, and one of them I just want to highlight is about like building your personal brand. And then you can actually start thinking about it now. So those are the two videos that I would suggest you to watch that can help you with your professional development.